Hello, today we're taking it back to the basics. Here are some really simple skills you can practice anywhere. You don't even need a trail, and these will make you a better rider. Right, let's start with the absolute basics, the ready position. So when you're rolling along on the trail, standing nice and tall, but with a slight bend in your knee, what you've got to remember is your legs are much stronger than your arms. So this is where you want to control the bike, learn to soak up the bumps, but make sure that even in your ready position, you're looking nice and forward and your heels are slightly dropped on the pedals. Two simple things to check here as well, your foot position. So the ball of your foot is just in front of the axle or very near the axle of your pedal. That'll put you in a nice neutral position, slightly flat or heel down. If you're too far on your toes, or if you're in clipless pedals and your cleats too far forward, you'll find your foot wants to start dipping toe down, which isn't ideal, but it's okay. So try and get your foot flat or slightly heel down. And then the second thing is brake lever position. If when you're standing up nice and tall, you're reaching right round to grab onto your levers, and they can bring your arms on top of the bars. I'd rather have them slightly higher so your wrists rest slightly behind the bars. Simple, right? Standing up with your feet level, ready to ride. That's what everyone knows. That's how you mountain bike. But what we're now looking to practice is using that range of movement. So going from that ready position to slightly up and forward, then all the way down and back so that your bum almost touches your rear wheel. That's where a lot of people don't quite get used to how far they can move over the back of the bike. If you've got a dropper post, make sure it's down out of the way so you've got all that space to move around. And if you're an intermediate rider trying to get really good, then actually learning how much space you've got will make a big difference when it comes to jumping, doing bigger drop-offs and riding gnarlier trails. Right, now you can use that space to get some really effective braking working now. What you need to do is, as you apply both the brakes, start moving back behind the bike. I've kind of talked about it a little bit already. Just dropping your heels and getting behind the bars means that when you hit the brakes, the weight's going into the bike, whereas if you're too flat with your feet or on top of the bars, hit the brakes, and you know that horrible feeling of the back wheel going light, your weight coming up and forward. And if the back wheel's light, it's not doing any stopping, but also there's a chance you can go over the bars. This is a really common mistake. Staying too central means that you won't be able to slow down fast. Moving it on from the braking, so getting down and low and really effective stopping, good brake control. We're actually going to kind of do something that sounds kind of wrong. So it's basically staying too far forward and using too much front brake is actually going to start lifting the rear wheel. And that can be really useful once you get to mastering how each brake affects the way your bike rides. In the UK, we use our right brake lever actually for the front brake, which is different to most of the rest of the world. I don't know why. It's the same as motorbikes, so it kind of makes sense. So actually, it's really learning to control your front brake, so make sure you know which one's your front brake. Like I say, staying in the middle of the bike and just grabbing a bit of front brake, making sure there's some weight on the front tyre will then lift the rear wheel. If you're too far back, your front wheel is just going to skid, and that's pretty uncontrollable. So it's weighting the front wheel and getting used to how good your front brake is, and just start to lift the rear wheel off the ground. When you've got a hang of that, you can start using it for tricks, for what we call stoppies, where you roll along on the front wheel just using your front brake. But actually, it's more useful for getting around really tight corners in the trail. Now, you do have to be a bit careful with this one. Obviously, front brakes can be a bit dangerous. Front wheel skid, it's not good. But also, if you grab that front brake and it grips really well and your brake's really good, you can start getting over the bars, which is not good, it's no fun. But your sort of safety net with this one is if you're going too high with the endo, you just let go of the front brake. Ideally, you get really good at modulating your front brake so you can get a feel for it. And if you're not going as high as you'd like, you pull it a bit more. And again, if you're going too high, just let go of it and you'll roll out of it. If you keep that front brake on, obviously you pull it hard enough so the rear wheel lifts and then you hold it on. You might just do an endo, which is what we call it when you sort of do a rear wheel lift and you stop and then your rear wheel drops down. Like I say, if you just then let it off as your reel starts dropping, you'll roll out of it really nicely. And it really does feel good this when you start to think, oh, I know exactly how well my front brake works, how good my front tyre is. And then it becomes really useful for riding the really technical terrain, those really tight corners, when you need a bit of help to get around those really horrible switchbacks. Okay, this is moving it on slightly from the beginner basic skills, but if you commit to a turn and then do the endo, that's when you can start using it on the tightest of corners. It's an endo turn. To master the endo turn or the nose pivot, roll into the endo but drop your shoulder to one side as you pull the front brake and swing your feet around. Keep your weight forwards as the bike swings round. You'll probably only make it to about 90 degrees to begin with, but keep trying and you might be able to get it all the way around to 180 degrees. Let's finish off with a super easy, fun little exercise you can do to try and practice all these things at once. Do it with a mate as well. If you can, a bit more fun, you can try and push each other off. Stick some markers down on the ground. I've got some gloves and a GoPro and a jacket, and just weave around them. So super slow, good for practicing your balancing skills, but also you might need to throw in some endo turns, a bit of dropping your outside foot and getting the bike leant over. Try and get around all these obstacles. Like I say, give it a go. Super easy, don't need anywhere to do it. And hopefully it's gonna make you a better rider. This is very tight. I'm useless at endoing left. You will see, I can turn in, because I ride left foot forward, I can actually pivot round to my right a bit better. There you go. It's really hard to keep your balance. Woo. Oh, he's done it. Practicing your cornering on somewhere nice and flat is actually a really good and easy way of doing it. So most people, when they turn a mountain bike, will actually stay quite in line with their bike, meaning that when they turn the bars and lean in, actually kind of hips stay above the saddle and away they go, turning an arc. But if you can start angling the bike over beneath you and your weight staying fairly sort of upright and to the outside of the bike, that can be a really effective way of cornering, especially when it comes to loose, flat turns where there isn't much grip. You can angle your bike over, make it do the cornering. It's going to want to lean in and carve a tighter apex. And then if you feel like you're going too tight, you can then pick the bike up. So it's much more adjustable than just using a bit of steering and a bit of lean. But it's really common for people to do this a bit one way, but not the other. So this is where you might need a friend to help you out and video it and just look at what you're doing. I'll always try and dip the outside pedal. So going from my flat pedal position to slightly down on the outside, and then that, kind of a bit like skiing. That also helps you turn your hips in, but I try and keep it simple. If you start thinking about hips, you can be doing too much. So think about dropping your outside foot and angling the bike over. And the way to do that, I find, is by picking up my outside elbow and pushing my inside hand down. See what I'm doing with the bars? Bars are going down and over, and as I do that, the saddle slides down the inside of that leg. Takes a bit of practice, like I say, try it both ways. If you get a knack for this, try and do this on the trail, on flat corners, and it'll give you way more confidence. All right, there are some simple skills you can practice anywhere to make yourself a better rider. Come back for part 2, where we're going to talk about front wheel lifts, wheelies, and then you're going to be amazing. So stay tuned.